the NSE, now the All Share Index, has remained within a narrow range over the last few sessions as the market digested a mixed set of results from the banks and manufacturing companies. Well, joining me now to discuss the day's trade is Olayemi Idris. She's an equities trader at Stanbic IBTC Stockbrokers. Olayemi, thank you so much for making the time to join us today. Now, as we mentioned, we have seen quite a mixture of results coming through from the banking sector. Earlier on this week, we saw it quite mixed, and we also had, a fresh set of results coming through today. I mean, how has the market interpreted this? Has this dampened sentiment at all when you look at the banking stocks?
Okay, looking at the banking sector, the results has been mixed, as you said earlier, and we've seen, we saw the Tier 1, Tier 2 results not very impressive. We saw a reduction in their interest income and an increase in their interest expense. So far, the results has not been very positive, and investor reaction to this result initially was negative. But looking at long-term investors, the valued investors, they are looking at these stocks at attractive levels, and they think these stocks are good picks at the moment. So towards the close today in the market, we saw some improved participation in the banking sector, despite the results.
Let's look at it from a long-term perspective, because we had weak growth coming through from the likes of Fidelity Bank, Sky Bank. Are you seeing that perhaps sentiment could be impacted going forward?
Okay, like I said earlier, the Tier 2 banks were more impacted with the regulatory effects of regulatory policies by the government. But on a long-term basis, we still expect the banking sector to improve positively where the banks will be concentrating on their core rather than depending on the interest income.
Now let's move out of the banking sector to some of the non-banking stocks. Now, apart from the stocks that we're talking about, we've seen quite a lot of news coming out from companies. We had Dangote and Lafarge Webco. What do you make of the earnings that came out from there?
Very impressive results from the consumer sector and industrial goods sector. The likes of Dangote Cement released very solid 9-month results, which is reflective of increased capacity utilization in that company. Then WAPCO and Nestle also released very impressive results as well. So we expect the consumer sector to continue this positive trend, and we expect it to be one of the top earners in this session.
In terms of them being such outperformers in the non-banking space, do you see this filtering through to the rest of the other stocks that fall into that sector?
In the non-consumer sector?
Sorry, Olayemi, can you repeat that for me?
Please, could you repeat your question as well?
Not a problem. We've seen very good performances, as you've mentioned, from the likes of, from Lafarge and Dangote Cement in the non-banking space. Are you perhaps maybe going to see the same happening in results that will be coming through from the non-banking sector?
Yes, we expect a positive trend to continue across stocks, across industry companies in the sector.
Right. Now, in terms of stocks, where do you see the most traction in terms of earnings? Where are you seeing investors putting their money now?
Like I said earlier, the long-term investors still see value in this Tier 1 bank, so they are taking position at this moment, and so they still see value in the Tier 1 banks, and definitely in the consumer sector as well, and in the industrial goods sector, the likes of Dangote Cement.
Right. Now let's talk about one of the companies, Transcorp. They're looking into the energy space. Are investors starting to warm up to that company, and what do you make of their growth plans?
Yeah, investors have reacted positively to the news with in the power sector, with Transcorp leading that sector, and Transcorp being a very speculative stock. We've seen improved participation in that stock and increased volumes in the stock as well. So we expect positive sentiment to continue, expect positive returns as well for the investors in that name.
Okay. Now, I know I'm putting you on the spot again because you have mentioned specific sectors where you are seeing growth, but if you had to pick some stocks looking at the bourse right now, which would come out of your top 5? Okay,
in the banking sector, we'll look at the likes of Zenith Bank, Guarantee, while in the oil and gas, we'll look at Total, and in the industrial sector, we'll look at Dangote Cement. And in the consumer sector, Flour Mill and Nestle is also a top pick for us.
Now, you know, earlier on, or yesterday rather, we had the FOMC minutes in terms of whether or not quantitative easing would be coming into play. A lot of analysts were saying that the statement was less dovish than what was expected. Have you seen this playing out in the Nigerian markets at all?
Okay, in the short term, we expect to see correction in the equity sector, but in the long term, we expect the positive trend to continue to the end of the year, as the NSE has gained about 3.99% year to date. So we expect to see that run through the end of the year. But just in the short term, I see a little correction, a little bearish sentiment in the market, but we expect that to be corrected and get balanced to the bullish trend towards the end of the year.